Hey everybody, thanks for coming and joining our webinar. The idea of this is to get you started with CloudCoreo, show you sort of what we're doing, and uh, effectively get you up and running quickly. I am Paul, founder, CEO, and DevOps guy by trade and by experience. I guess let's just jump right into it. The Again, the idea with CloudCoreo is to control your entire cloud deployments quickly, easily, to code revision everything, and to sort of allow you to share and build upon what already exists and what other people have done for you. There's a few ways you can interact with our product, which interacts with your cloud. I'm going to start with the getting started that we have. The getting started will actually take you through and set up sort of a VPC best practice. One of the first things everybody always screws up when they try to jump into the cloud is your VPC, your actual network. So what we did was we put together a getting started that sort of brings together our command line utility with the actual web interface and sort of our hub that houses these stacks, and it lets you, again, bring up your VPC in a best practices way quickly and easily. I'm not going to go through everything here. I already have our CLI installed. It's just npm. I'm going to start right here on step 2, creating our first project. If you can see on the right side of my screen there, that will actually be what we end up with. It's a 3 data center network split across public and private subnets. All right, let's get started. First thing to do is create a dummy directory, or a work directory. So I am going to make one here in my temp directory called demo. Nothing in here. I guess one thing I should also show you is our Amazon console. This is a demo account I set up just for this. There's nothing in here. It's just a total empty VPC. We'll be working with this and also the EC2 service, which is also totally empty except for a key pair. So anyway, back to the getting started. After you create your dummy directory, we go through and we tell you there's a stack on the hub you can use. We circumvent you having to go there and just give you this command that you can use with our CLI. When I type this in, when I actually run this command, what it's going to do, it's going to go out to wherever this stack exists. A stack in CloudCoreo is defined by a Git repo. This one in particular happens to be in GitHub. We can go and look at it later. Everything in CloudCoreo is controlled and revisioned by Git. So a stack is essentially a GitHub or whatever Git you use repository. So what you can see here is that I now have an extends directory. It pulled down that VPC network only stack and put it in this extends, and all of the files that exist in that repo are now locally on my hard drive. So I could actually go through and see what's going on and everything. It's all totally open source. So that's all there is to it. The next step in our stack is to deploy. In our getting started is to deploy. How do we do that? Coreo solo run. Now what this is doing is it's not only setting up our CloudCoreo account for the first time, it's actually going through my hard drive right now and finding AWS credentials. Once it finds them, it shows me a list of the things that I can of the accounts I can launch in, or it gives me the option to create a new one. Again, I set up this demo account. It's just in my .aws directory, so I'm going to tell it to go use it. One thing to note here is that whatever you have as the default, again, this only applies to this solo command, but whatever you have as the default region is where it's going to launch your stack. So I'm going to select that 0, that demo. It's going to launch in Europe, and that's about all there is to it. So CloudCoreo is now going to authorize our engine to act on that account's behalf. We don't store any credentials. We never, we don't do anything like that. And then the engine takes over and it starts a two-phase process. The first time you ever run it against a stack, we have to initialize it, and then it actually goes through and creates it for you actually in your account. So again, we come over to EC2. We see there should still be nothing here, and there isn't. Come back, wait a little bit, and the engine is now actually generating the plan in the background. As soon as it's completed, as you can see here, it starts dumping logs from our engine directly to your console, so you can see what it's doing. You can see it's creating a new sitter block for our VPC. It's going through fairly quickly, generating subnets, creating subnets for the public area, attaching route tables, and it's going to create them also for the private area. And then it actually goes through, again, part of best practices is to tag everything in Amazon, so we tag everything. We actually allow you to create your own tags, of course. You can do absolutely anything you want within CloudCoreo, but predefined in this particular stack are these tags. So it's just going to sit here now because it's done, but now we should be able to see in here that we have a VPC, the 6 subnets we talked about. There are 4 route tables we created and a default one that I don't ever recommend you use, but that just comes as part of Amazon. It also has an internet gateway created and attached to the right place. So that is effectively this diagram here. You can see it's 6 subnets. That's public and private in 3 data centers. There are route tables that are attached to an internet gateway. Now, great. That looks fine. What's the next step? Well, CloudCoreo again allows you to quickly add and modify and just manipulate your entire cloud deployment, all revisioned within Git. In our getting started, the reason we stopped there is because everything we just did is free. If you want to add something that actually makes your stack useful, your cloud useful, you're going to need a NAT. What this NAT does is it allows servers inside the private subnets access to the outside world. Now, again, we're going to go through this in a second, but this NAT is just a stack inside GitHub that we've registered with our hub. So let's come in here and run the command that's in our getting started. It's actually going to pull down again the stack from the hub. It's going to put it in this stack-servers NAT directory right here, and if we run a tree on this, we can see there's a lot more stuff inside our stack. Again, this is literally just yanking it down from GitHub and sticking it in a subdirectory. There's no magic. It's all totally open source. You can see everything that's going on. What do we do now? Coreo solo run. Same command, same area. Now, this time it says we're missing something. Perfect. Whoever created this NAT repo, which is me, have defined NAT key as a required variable and not given us a default. What does that mean? Well, there is a YAML file in our repo, in our base here, that's called config. Inside here are all of the possible variables defined within all of the repos that I'm pulling together. You can see NAT key is empty and we need one. I've created one inside that region called MacBook, so I know this will work. Now I'm just going to run it again. So again, what this is doing is it's pushing up the entire contents of my Git repo to a location within CloudCoreo that our engine can access. It's going to pull everything down, and it's going to run through the new stack. The things that were already there will end up just refreshing, and will ensure that it's all correct. Anything new will be added to our cloud account. So let's let that run for a second. All right, so what you can see here now is that there's a lot more things in the compiling phase. The logs are a bit out of order in this. It's eventually consistent. That'll be fixed in the next version, but they're all there. So what's it doing now? It's going through everything that was already existed and making sure it's correct. That's step one. So it's going through the VPC. It's going through all the route tables. It's going through all the subnets. It's not going to change anything because everything's exactly the same. We haven't actually gone and do anything. But now what you can see is it's creating new things that were defined inside that NAT repository. You've got a security group there. It's authorizing various rules, again, all defined within that repo. It is going to create our instance profiles, our IAM policies. It's actually going to go and create the launch config and auto-scaling groups for us, and it's going to tag everything. So again, we're just sitting here. It's totally done. We can come back to our EC2 console and see that instead of 0, there's things being added. There's security groups now. There's actually going to be launch configurations that contain actual user data. Inside the user data, you'll actually see the definition of what we launched, as well as just the user data to boot the actual server. Auto-scaling group, again, all of these settings are defined in that repository. So we can actually monitor against Git all the time and make sure it's always correct. And then, of course, the instances themselves are going to come up and run. You can see this one initializing. This guy's from a previous demo I did. This thing it's going to come up and start running, and the NAT will take over the private route tables and start directing traffic through the NAT itself. So that was a lot of information. If there is any questions from anybody, please ask in the chat. Sai will moderate and unmute you to actually ask out loud, and we can go over it. So what did we do? We just created a best practices VPC with a highly available NAT setup. What did we take? About 12 minutes. That is sort of networking 101. It's a big part of what people miss, and that's again why we wanted to provide this value just from the CLI tool. I'm going to show you a different way, a different method of doing these things as well. So sorry, yeah, if there is a question, just Sai will unmute you and you can ask it to me verbally, just so we can have it recorded. Scott Thorpe, you had a question? All right, I'll read his question out loud so we can actually just get on with this a little bit. Can I explain my MacBook setup? I'm assuming you know. I'm assuming you're asking how we got the actual CLI installed. It's standard Node, and I use brew to install Node, and then the CLI install is literally an npm install globally of CloudCoreo CLI. Actually, I can hit enter. It'll just override the current install. So, his question was actually for the NAT name and etc. Okay, that makes more sense. So the config file that is generated by the CLI, the CLI goes through all of the stacks that you're pulling together and pulls out the variables that are required, or or actually not even required, but pulls them all out to expose them to you in a single, easy to use location. In here, you can actually change anything you want to. The question specifically is why I called this MacBook, right? That is just because that is the name that I gave our key pair in the Ireland region. That's all it is. I could have called this anything I wanted to, and this NAT key is what they expect, what we expect to see. But since we're in here, I'll continue. These are where you set everything. If you're using the solo command, the solo command is designed for you to do one-off configuration runs. You can have a single stack that you're playing with, adding to, etc. And you just run it whenever you want to. The website itself that we're going to go over in a second, that's where you can actually set CloudCoreo up to continuously monitor your deployments. The solo command is more for development, more for playing, more for testing, although it's running the exact same engine that the web app runs. So if I wanted, for instance, a different octet, a different network setup for my VPC, I could change it right here. If I wanted a 172.20, for instance, I could change that, save it, rerun it, and my VPC is then set to 172.20 instead of 10.11. So that's true with all these things. You can change literally anything you want to, and it'll propagate through to the places that it needs to be. The details of creating a stack, we're going to do that in a different tutorial. That's sort of more advanced for the people that want to actually get down and create these stacks and in order to share them out. This is more how do you consume somebody else's work. So we showed you the solo. We're going to do the exact same thing again using the actual web app. Actually, even better. Let's say I just told you this is to sort of demo, to dev, to play, to figure out how everything is working. What if I want to save it and share it out? This is perfect. This is, this network is great. It's exactly the way I want it. I want everybody to be able to use it because it's so awesome. I told you before, everything in CloudCoreo is defined by a Git repository. Anything you do, any work you do, anything that runs on our engine can be considered a stack, a brand new stack. So how do we share that out? You create a repository. So I've done that. Inside GitHub, there is, I've created a new repo. I've just called it the demo for today. I'm just going to add all that work I just did to this repo. So we will add it all, and we'll add everything, initial commit, and we'll push up the master. Perfect. So there's a let's see this now. We should see all these new things in here. Here's everything we've done, even our config YAML file with this new 172 octet that we just changed. It's all right here. Perfect. Now I want to share it out. All you have to do is send somebody your Git repo URL. If we come back to the actual the CloudCoreo site, This is what you see when you log in. The only things I've done on this is added my my AWS credentials. This is the exact same credential that I just used with the solo account. The idea of AppStacks is sort of that master Git repo that we're talking about. So this Paul D. Allen / demo 2015 1103, that is now an AppStack for all intents and purposes. So let's use it. I'm going to add an AppStack. It's going to ask me for a name, and I'm going to call this Demo Network. I'm going to paste in that new repo I've done and hit create. What's happening in the background now is we're actually going to go and get that repo from that GitHub account, and we're going to separate out all the variables and all those config YAML files and put them together in a way that can be exposed to the UI. So after it's built, you can come in here and click on it and create as many of these versions as you want. So what does that mean? Well, let's say you have a dev account and a production account. I would call this dev, and I might want to follow a dev branch in GitHub. I want it to refresh as fast as possible, and I want to launch in the demo Ireland region. Perfect. All those config YAML files you saw, they're now exposed right here. You can see the defaults come out and pre-populate. You can change anything you want to, or just hit create. Great. Now that's the dev side. I want a production now. I'm going to have it follow the master branch. I'm still going to refresh as fast as possible in the demo, and now I can launch this one in US. Well, let's put it in Frankfurt, in Germany, not too far away. And again, hit create. When I enable these things, it's actually going to go through and create everything. So let's do that. We don't have a dev branch, so I'm going to launch the prod one. Let's clear out our Amazon account. I'll just delete that. We'll delete this, and that's done. So let's come in here. We're going to do it. Well, we'll just put this one in Ireland too, since we're already done. Master prod, everything looks good. We're going to do it in 172 instead this time. And don't want to change anything else. Let's make this. Let's make the NAT launch 3 instances, since we're doing it in 3 regions. Why not? So coming back in here, there is our last NAT is shutting down because that auto scaling group is deleted or deleting. Once he's done, we'll just clear out the VPC, and we can move on with creating a whole new section right from the web app. Of course, this is a live demo, and it takes longer than you expect. So while that's happening, let me just show you one more aspect. Well, no, we'll wait. It's getting a little advanced. There we go. So now we'll just delete out the entire VPC that we created, and we will turn on our production version. So the act of turning it on actually tells CloudCoreo, hey, go and check my Git repository and resolve the differences inside my Amazon account, and do this at whatever frequency I set. So it's set right now to real time. I'm just going to turn that on, and that act is literally going to run through the same code that we just did with the CloudCoreo CLI, except it's going to do it in a timed, repeated, always running fashion. The logs will appear in this message window, but there's also a way to get it with the CLI that I'll show you in a second. So Again, very similar to the CLI. As soon as things start happening, it's generating the plan, it's running through. As soon as they start happening, the logs will appear right here in this window. And we'll also see everything happen on this side as well. Where's our VPC? So there's nothing yet. So we can see now it just finished compiling, and now it's starting to process everything. It created our VPC and set up our internet gateway, so we should see that already inside. We do. It's the 172.20 that we defined earlier. We're going to see all of these subnets start to appear. You can see our public ones are initially created, followed fairly quickly by the private ones that are coming through. The tags will be added right now, and we can literally just follow this. So this is the repo that we set up. Again, remember, it's following this Paul Dielan demo repository that we created, and we actually generated all of this stuff using the CLI with only a couple of commands. The only technically difficult part was adding the repo and pushing it up to GitHub. So we're going to see all of these things. Oh, the one thing, remember, we changed was the auto-scaling group. There's not going to be one NAT instance anymore. We want it highly available in our production system, so we set that value to be 3. So what we'll see inside of here, you can see it's completed on my screen here. What we're going to see is a new auto-scaling group with a desired and instance set of 3. Now, what did CloudCoreo actually do for us? This is where it gets interesting. Because you can use other people's work, you can find people that are really good at these things that develop best practices. I've done this one. The best practices that I've got designed into this this NAT stack are a few things. First of all, every instance should be running inside of an IAM role, and you can see we've defined it inside that stack. Again, totally open sourced. You can go and see it, but the IAM role is right here. And again, CloudCoreo created it, so we have the prefix on it. But when you come over and look at it, we can see it right here. If this ever gets changed or somebody accidentally deletes it, CloudCoreo catches that and adds it back in. That's sort of the benefit. It makes sure that whatever you have in Git is in your environment, and that's so powerful. I've been bitten before by well-meaning interns that have deleted ports out of a security group and taken down production. CloudCoreo would catch that sort of thing and add back ports. Maybe more importantly, we'll remove ports that shouldn't be there. So if somebody goes and opens up your SSH to the world, we'll actually take it back out. The only way you can add it in is to add it through Git, which gives you an audit trail, a log of who did what and why. Hopefully you have your software release cycles or your practices set up within your organization so that something like that would have to go through an approval process and then hopefully be rejected by the approval process. So that's sort of the two different ways to create stacks with CloudCoreo. If you want to utilize one of the ones that have already been created, sort of the open source idea, we have a hub here. The hub exists to register stacks that are running. You can see this demo 2015 we just created is already registered here, and lets you easily add them. So if I want to do, for instance, an etcd cluster, I can come in here. This is just pulling things out of Git. I can see the actual Git repo on this side. I can go through and see all of the code, all of the services that are going to be utilized, and things like that. But you know, maybe I don't care about that. I just want to use it. I can hit add this stack. It's going to bring me over to CloudCoreo and add it right in for me. When it's going to go through the same process we discussed before, but as soon as this is done building, I can launch it wherever I want to. Go and launch an etcd cluster, highly available in Europe with a single click and editing a few variables. So we had a half an hour scheduled. That was sort of the fast version. Does anybody have any other questions before we wrap this up and try to get in under the 30-minute mark? Great. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. The website is up and ready to use. It's fully functional. Please go ahead, sign up, use it however you want to, and leave us feedback. We're here to help. Join our Slack channel, or just hit us up at any one of the contact methods on our site. Hope to talk to you all soon, and good luck creating stacks.